this is something new I'm trying. Maybe do some, podcasting. Why not, right? So got that cool, sick intro and whatnot, and I made it myself. Well, I mean, it was made with loops. I'm not that creative, but I figured I'd try this out and just do a little short thing on the difference, or not the difference, rather. The argument I heard an argument I've heard recently that says that freedom of speech is not a right. And this is not coming from the left, it's coming from the right, it's coming from further right than the typical right. This is coming from, it came out of an anarchist's mouth. I'm sure other anarchists feel the same way. And the man who mentioned this was Eric July. Now the problem with let me before I get carried on, let me just preface this by saying Eric July I don't have problems with him. He's a pretty great guy from what I can tell. I don't know him personally, obviously, but he's very much, how can I put this? He's very much a well-versed and well-spoken anarchist. And I'm not an anarchist, but I'm pretty darn close. And I agree with probably 95% of what they say. So, generally speaking, we want some of the same things. We want, we believe in things like, not aggressing against people, not using violence against people. And I've talked about this before on my YouTube channel. C.G.S, Conservative Guy Speaks. Although I might be changing the name of it because of the times. I'm thinking about changing it because while I do still call myself a conservative, and I don't think I've changed politically, but conservatism never changed. I just had the wrong impression of it before. But the reason I'm considering changing it is because I want to reach more people, and I want to when someone sees conservative in the title, they automatically associate it with like a Trump supporter or a I don't know, someone that would vote for Ted Cruz or something. And I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for Ted Cruz or Trump. In fact, I did vote for Trump. Not because I really agree with his policies or anything, but because, he's kind of a bull in a china shop, things like that. Seems like I'm getting carried away. I'll get back on topic in a second. I'm just considering changing the YouTube channel name. C.G.S. You can look up C.G.S, Conservative Guy Speaks, or whatever. But anyway, I thought about what Eric July said. And Eric July is very, I love the guy. I watch his videos all the time. But he said freedom of speech, and he sort of said it offhandedly. It wasn't the main point of the video. But he said freedom of speech is not a right. Only rights that matter are private property rights. There's just one problem with that logic. Sorry if you hear any background noise, by the way. There's some stuff going on outside my room. But what he said about that, private property rights are the only rights that exist. And obviously, when they talk about private property, they're also talking about self-ownership. I would say to that, well, isn't your speech your property? And what I mean by that is not when you say a word, someone can't, misinterpret the meaning or anything. I don't mean that at all. You have the right to freedom of speech. Saying you don't have the right to freedom of speech, meaning you can't say what you believe, is wrong. You can't say what you think. Well, your thoughts are yours. And if you decide to share those thoughts with other people, you should be allowed to do that. So that is a private property right. Because your thoughts are your property. And your lips are your property. If someone prevents you from speaking, they are violating your rights, are they not? Information is where the war is at. Most people don't have the proper information, and they don't want to look at the writing on the wall because they don't have the proper information to decipher it. And when it comes to what's happening in the United States right now, our country is just, let's be honest, it's not doing too great right now. It looks like the best, most peaceful option is secession. Doesn't mean there won't be bloodshed. In fact, there probably will be, but I don't think it'll be another civil war. At least not now. But if we keep prolonging this and dragging this out, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like our cultural differences across the nation, but not just that, just the political divide, it's irreconcilable. Sorry about my enunciation issues. Kind of doing this on the fly. But it just, I the thing about anarchists is they put too much emphasis on, and this is a problem with a lot of like libertarians and anarchists and people sort of in it. I know some of them don't like being called one or the other, or some of them call themselves both or whatever. I get the argument that, oh, well, freedom of speech is not a right because it doesn't have to do with property, but it does. And it has to be a guaranteed right. People have to be allowed to say what's true. And that's really the thing. If everyone who's ever opposed freedom of speech has opposed it to censor truth, not lies. Some people will claim that, and you go, oh, well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, it's also paved with bad ones. And in the case of freedom of speech, it is that important. It is the most important right anyone can have. Because what's private property rights if you can't tell someone to get off your property? If you can't speak up for yourself when in a legal dispute over your property, what's the point? Oh, can you imagine you're fighting over a piece of land that you own, someone trespasses on it, but you're not allowed to make your case in court because you don't have freedom of speech? And when he was talking about this, he's obviously talking in reference to tech companies, just so I cover all my bases. And he's just pointing out left-wing hypocrisy, and I know that was the point of the video before, anyone gets their panties in a twist. But what I'm saying, what I took issue with is, again, the idea that freedom of speech is not a right. That's just insanity. Okay? I mean, and this is coming from someone who is all about rights and is all about things like non-aggression, the non-aggression principle. And there's a stronger argument that the non-aggression principle is just a principle than that freedom of speech is not a right. And there are some very, very bad issues with the non-aggression principle, by the way, which I've gotten into. Not that I'm for aggression, but there are gray areas, and anarchists seem to never want to address that. Or if they do, they just say, "Well, it's not perfect." And it's like, well, I'm not. That's not an argument. That doesn't negate anything. And I'd love to get into that another time, but I think I'm just going to keep it short. But that's really the point, is that freedom of speech is private property rights. Private property rights wouldn't be a thing without freedom of speech. Again, you can't stand for your rights if you don't even have the ability to speak out. That's where it starts. So you do have freedom of speech. It is a right. It is a human right. And you must protect it. Otherwise, if you're not allowed to speak your mind, it will become a slippery slope. I know people say, "Oh, slippery slope fallacy," except it's not. Not in this case, for sure. Before you know it, there will be genocide. It doesn't take that long. And all it takes is telling people that they can't speak up, or keeping them from speaking up, censoring them. So do understand that there's a reason that the state is working with these tech companies behind the scenes. And why they're censoring so many dissident voices, mainly voices on the right, people who are sort of outside the purview of government allies, if you will. There's a reason that they are the ones that are being censored. Okay? And if you think that it's not their right to speak their mind, I'm not saying Twitter necessarily, that's a private company, but people still have the right to say what they want. And I do not think that a tweet is the same thing as freedom of speech. Okay, obviously they're different things. But the fact still remains that people have a basic right to express their minds. That is true. And my advice is go have your own company. Go make your own thing. And some people have done that. The problem is that the alternatives right now suck. But hopefully that'll change. So that's my little rant. I know I get caught up on things that people just sort of mention in passing in their videos, but what are you gonna do?